Hi everyone. We're going to continue exploring Barry Harris's 6th Diminished scale. So far, I've talked about what type of 6th Diminished scale we can use for some of the chord qualities. A few videos back, I talked about how you can use the major 6th Diminished scale to, for example, harmonize a melody that's been written over a major 7th chord or 6th chord. So for example, like the tune There Will Never Be Another You. All those notes, that's all the E flat major scale. So you can use the E flat major 6th scale to harmonize it, like I showed you. Right? And in the previous video, I talked about how over minor 7th chords, a minor 7th chord is really just a major 6th chord. It's just an inversion of it. So in the previous video, I talked about how you can use the 6th diminished scale to move from the minor 7 to the dominant 7. Or borrowing individual voices. But what about dominant 7th chords? In other words, is there a scale that we can use for chording over dominant 7th chords and a scale that we can think about in order to create movements just on dominant 7? And there's two main ways that you can think of this. The first concept is something that Barry Harris refers to as the 6th on the 5th. And what he means by that is take any dominant 7th chord like D dominant 7. Barry says that we can use the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th scale degree of whatever that dominant chord is. So I'll say that one more time. For dominant 7th chords, we can use the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th scale degree. So for D dominant 7, we can think the A minor 6th diminished scale to harmonize and to create movements. So A minor 6 is an A minor triad plus a 6. And the whole scale would look like this if I were to play it in 6th and diminished chords. Now, why does this work from a music theory perspective? I'll prove it to you. D dominant 7, as I've said probably a dozen times before now, right, comes from that fully diminished 7th chord. When we lower a note, we get that dominant 7. There's D7. But watch what happens when we take that fully diminished 7th chord and we raise one note. Remember, I told you a lot of videos back that we get a minor 6th chord, and that's an inversion of A minor 6. So the reason why we can harmonize over a dominant 7 with this minor 6th chord over the 5th is because, again, the most unifying concept is that they come from the same fully diminished 7th chord. There's my fully diminished 7. If I lower a note, I get D dominant 7. And if I raise a note, I get my A minor 6th chord. So let's take this to the framework of a 2-5-1 in G major. I start with my A minor 7, and then when I go to D7, I'm going to use the A minor 6th diminished scale to create movement. minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th scale degree of whatever dominant chord you're on. Now there's another 6th on the 5th concept that we can use, and this one is kind of confusing, so pay attention. We can use the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th of the tritone of the dominant. I'll say that one more time. We can use the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th scale degree of the tritone of the dominant chord we're on. So let me walk you through that. Let's say we're on our D dominant 7th again. The tritone of D7, 6 half steps away, is A flat 7, right? And the 5th scale degree of A flat 7 is E flat. So that means we can use the E flat minor 6th diminished scale over D dominant 7. It's kind of interesting, and it kind of gives us that altered type of sound. Now again, why is this valid? I'll prove it. Here's D dominant 7, which comes from this fully diminished 7th chord, right? But look what happens when I take this fully diminished 7th chord and I take this A and I raise it a half step. I get a minor 6th chord, and there's that E flat minor 6. So because that minor 6th chord comes from the same fully diminished chord as D7, that's why it's valid. It's unbelievable how logical the music is, you know, because everything can be explained and everything can be justified. So let's see what it would look and sound like if I were to use the E flat minor 6th diminished scale over D7. That's one way. What if I decided to do... What did I do there? What's this? If I take E flat minor 6, that's just an inversion of it, and I do the drop 2 concept where I take the second voice from the top and I drop it down an octave. All I did was I borrowed diminished notes, which is a concept I talked about in one of the previous videos, on the lowest voice and the uppermost voice, and I just moved them. See, a lot of people play chords like this where they hit a 2-5 and they say, but they don't really realize that that comes from a scale. It can go the whole way. I can do the E flat minor 6th diminished scale the whole way. Watch this. Ideas of tools you can utilize. Again, using the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th of the dominant, and also the minor 6th diminished scale built on the 5th of the tritone. And another way you can think of that last example is whatever the root of your dominant 7th chord is, you just go up a half step and use the minor 6th diminished scale. So let's say I was playing over B flat 7, I could use the B minor 6th diminished scale. So there you go. That's a lot of heavy theory talk, but next video, and I'll see you next time.